So with the start of the academic year upon us, it got Majella and I thinking about what would be the most valuable content we could produce to serve our audience best. Those of you who are starting university for the first time ever. And honestly, we just asked ourselves, what would we have really wanted to know in that first semester of uni? What are the things we can do now, learn now, to ensure that we make the most of our time studying, because it's not going to be forever. So with all of our personal experience and the combined experience of the thousands of students that we've helped traverse this journey, these are the things that no one tells you about university that could really make or break your experience. The first thing is to look into scholarships. First and foremost, before any of you skip ahead thinking that this part is only for those who perform really well academically or those who have experienced some sort of disadvantage, the scholarship that I myself missed out on was actually a first in family scholarship. So essentially, because neither of my parents and none of my siblings had gone to university before I did, I was entitled to that money for that reason alone. And this is just one scholarship. There are hundreds out there for things like living on campus, for having carer responsibilities, and there are even scholarships for people who had their parents go to university, kind of like the opposite of the one I was eligible for. So if you're tossing up between 2 degrees or 2 universities and you're not sure which way to go, take a look at the scholarships, and potentially if one's going to offer you $5,000 a year, that may be a good reason to go with that over the other. The next tip is to work on your business, not in your business. Now I know, some of you are probably thinking, what does this have to do with university? Well, the saying work on your business, not in your business, mainly refers to people who are self-employed, and instead of working on the marketing, thinking about how to grow customers or to offer new products, all they'll spend their time doing is completing the tasks they have to do for one client and then moving on to the next. Never taking that step back and thinking, what are the strategies we can use to work more efficiently, more effectively, and get more done? And this idea applies directly to university students. Let me explain. If you were anything like me in high school, you basically went to class, tried to absorb the information, maybe wrote a few notes, and then when it came time to complete an assessment or study for an exam, you read back over the textbook, read back over your notes, and basically tried to remember it like that. And this is what many students do. However, for years now, we've known about specific study strategies that are proven to help you remember things better, to understand concepts better, and to ultimately be more efficient in the time you put towards study. So when I say work on your business, not in your business, I mean work on your study, don't do the study.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Now, obviously, this isn't something that you do for the entire semester, but at the beginning, when the workload is slightly lighter, I would really recommend putting a few hours a week towards learning these more effective, these more efficient study techniques, so that when the time does come for you to revise or work towards the exam, you're putting time into effective and efficient strategies that ultimately help you save time and get better marks. The third tip is to understand your course structure. So what I mean by this is understand the exact requirements it takes in order to complete your degree. It sounds pretty simple, but many people don't think about this, including me. For the first probably 2 years of my degree, I had no idea what subjects I was going to do next semester, what I needed to do in the semester after that, and ultimately, even how many subjects my degree was made up of. Now, don't worry. In most cases, you won't need to figure this out entirely by yourself. Universities offer academic advisors, and they're essentially there to help you structure your study plan, to make sure that you don't enroll in the wrong subjects or do subjects in the wrong order. And the reason I think this is so important can be explained by a situation that I actually had with one of my friends at uni. So basically the story goes like this. He was in what he thought was the last semester of his degree. He had a couple of subjects to do, and they were elective subjects. And basically what you do when you come to the end of your degree is you notify the university that I'm in my last semester. Can you double check that I've completed all the subjects required for my degree? And for some reason, they hadn't gotten back to him in the normal advertised time of a couple of weeks or something like that. And basically he gave them a call and ultimately found out that one of the subjects he'd done hadn't met the criteria for his degree. And so that meant that he had to delay his graduation for a whole semester, so a whole nother 6 months. and spend an additional $1,000, $2,000, whatever the cost for the subject was, just because he made that mistake. And speaking of paying too much in fees, the next tip is to actually understand how much this degree is going to cost you. Now, I know for many domestic students out there, you'll have access to HEX help. And so you've been able to defer the fees for your course onto a loan. And so ultimately, many of us don't put too much thought into how much this is actually going to cost. But this is part of the problem, because when we don't understand exactly how much each subject is going to cost us, we actually open ourselves up to being overcharged by the university. Now, I won't go into this in too much detail in this video because I've actually made an entire video dedicated to this, which I would definitely recommend that you guys watch. But just know there are some universities that will overcharge you by almost 3 times just by enrolling into the wrong course. The next tip, very simply, is to look into the social aspect of university. At the end of the day, outside the skills that you gain at university, the next biggest reason, this best thing about how it's set up is probably the networking aspect. So I would definitely recommend having a look at what sort of societies or clubs are available at the university. See which ones interest you. And if that really isn't your thing, then even something like joining the sports team, whether it's competitive or social, is a great way to meet other people at the university, people that you may not have even run into in classes, and from that build lifelong friendships and in some cases professional acquaintances that will really help you in the future. Moving on to the next tip, I would highly recommend that you try your best to get some sort of extracurricular experience while you're at university. Now, there are many universities that will help facilitate this as part of your degree. So obviously, you'll need to participate in that portion of it, but there are so many other opportunities that universities can organize that really only need you to express your interest. I know Majella, she actually participated in a work experience exchange that was only a week, so you don't need to commit to a crazy amount of time, that went to China, that went alongside her degree. So if you were to compare 2 graduates, one with the degree, one with the exact same degree, but has experience, has internships, has gone to seminars, has done projects, 9 times out of 10, that student is going to get the job over the one who's done nothing. The next one is one that Majella and I can really vouch for, and that's try to get a job at the university. Now, obviously, not everyone is going to be able to do this, but if any of you out there are planning on working alongside your degree, then a job at the university could be an awesome reason for more ways than one. So to begin with, if your casual or part-time job is actually on the university campus, then if you have to go to class before or after, or you're just used to making the commute to the university, then that's obviously a big advantage. You could go and do a morning shift and then continue, not have to drive anywhere to do your afternoon classes. On top of that, if you were to get a job in, say, student administration, then this may help you better understand what the university has to offer. I know there are many students who learn on the job things about their degree, things that can really help them, and because it's part of their job, they get paid to do it. So in simply showing up for your shift and completing your everyday duties, you're learning tangible tips about your degree, about how processes work, and ultimately that's a win-win. And the final reason, generally universities pay really, really well. I know when I first started working for the university, and this was years ago as well, so it's probably increased now, I was earning $35 an hour. And by the time I graduated and stopped working there, my income had increased to like $42 an hour, something crazy like that. The second last tip we have here is to use this time at university to get ahead financially. Now, I know that is pretty hard to envision. However, it's these formative years when we can really get ahead if we play our cards right. So there are a few steps that generally will help you get on the way, and I won't go through them here as I've already made a video that goes through them in detail, but I would really recommend that you look. Perhaps you're already doing some of these, but perhaps you would learn a few extra things to help you just make that next big step. So I would definitely recommend that you watch that video, and that'll at least point you in the right direction. And finally, I would actually encourage all of you right now, really think about it. Is going to university right now the right thing for me to do? Because If you find yourself applying for degrees, accepted into some, enrolling into subjects, but not actually having a concrete idea of this is what I want to do, or perhaps you're thinking, I'm only doing this because my parents have told me to do it, or my friends are doing it, so I just want to fit in with them. Really think about and have confidence in your gut feeling as to whether this is really what you should be doing with your time. Now, I have to be fair to universities and say that trying things out can be a good way to discover what's going to be right for you. But at the end of the day, you're paying a price for that. And if you really have no direction or no inkling that this is going to be the right thing to do, but you're just doing it because it's the easiest thing, I would really encourage otherwise. Now, the great thing about most universities is that even if you have started, say you fall into this category and you think, actually, I don't know, maybe it's better right now to do a little bit more research, take some time to really think about what it is that I want to do with my life. If you get out, withdraw from a subject before the census date, you usually don't have any blemish on your academic record and no fees will need to be paid. So there won't be any debt accruing in your name. Now, please don't take this as an excuse to withdraw from uni, just get a normal retail or hospitality job and then never think about it again. If you are going to withdraw and you're going to take the time off, I would encourage you to set yourself homework. Homework which is just considering different options, whether that's calling up different providers, talking to people who are in later stages of life around you and seeing what they did, what advice they have for you. I think all of that is more beneficial than just conforming with what your classmates, what your friends, or what your parents want you to do and being miserable.